Hey, it's Marie Forleo, and you are watching Marie TV, the place to be to create a business and life you love. And today I am so excited to interview two founders, people I have been fans of for a while. So if you've ever wondered about starting a company from your couch and eventually having it reach millions, you're going to love this one. Carly Zakin and Danielle Weisberg are co-founders and co-CEOs of theSkimm, a media company that's transformed the way female millennials get their news. These two former NBC news producers launched theSkimm from their couch in 2012 and now have more than 6 million skimmers. Carly and Danielle have been featured in Forbes 30 Under 30 in Media, Vanity Fair's The Next Establishment, and have received numerous accolades including the Goldman Sachs Builders and Innovator Summit as one of the 100 most intriguing entrepreneurs. Ladies, Danielle, Carly, it is so good that we're finally doing this.
Gosh, this is so exciting.
Thank you for having us.
Oh my gosh.
So excited.
I have loved the newsletter for years, and I want to take it back to 2012.
Yeah.
And rumor has it, started on a couch together.
Here we are.
Something kind of like this with just 4,000. For the people that aren't familiar with the origin story, how did you guys come up with theSkimm? How did it start?
So we started it 5.5 years ago from our couch, which was
This is much nicer.
Yeah, this is much nicer in our living room. Carly and I knew each other since college. We went to different schools. We met studying abroad. We had a great time. Did not talk about work, but it turned out that we'd both grown up news geeks, just a real love of storytelling, started interning as soon as we could, started working, got our foot in the door. And between us worked in every division that NBC News had. And absolutely loved it. It was our dream job. So it's kind of crazy that we decided to quit. But we just saw this disconnect between our friends who are really smart and educated and have great jobs, but their jobs require them to do other things and to be experts in their industry. So we just saw that, we were being paid to read all day long. We were being paid to be in the know. And that wasn't really realistic for how people lived their day-to-day life. Yes. So we wanted to create something that just made it easier to live a smarter life. And we looked at how people were consuming information and how we could fit into that. And that's kind of where it all started.
Yeah. And so was it, oh my gosh, I think we can do an email newsletter, or was it a vision for a media company or somewhere in between?
So I think, we've been really public about, we didn't have a tech background. We didn't have a business background. But I think we don't spend enough time talking about actually what we did know, which was we knew this audience. We knew how to talk to our friends. We knew the economic opportunity around this audience. We knew what our mission was, which is that, we articulate it better now, but it's always been the same, which is that theSkimm makes it easier to live a smarter life. And we knew email was a marketing tool. We never intended, and nor have we created an email company. Email is a marketing tool. Yes. So we knew what we were creating. We went through is it a media company? Is it a lifestyle company? Our buzzword that we use now is a membership company. Yeah. But for us, it's how do we integrate into the lives of female millennials? And we believe that it's through membership. But we knew email was marketing.
That's awesome. Because I think a lot of folks, when they're first starting out, they're struggling. I love that you just made the point, we didn't articulate it as clearly then as we do now.
Oh my gosh, we did not. No, we did a horrible job. It took years.
Right? And I think this is one of the things where I got tripped up when I first started. First of all, I still don't know what the hell to call myself, but I have not let that stop me. I'm I'm just going to keep doing the work and let it all inform what happens next. But the point I want to make here, so many of the folks that watch our show, whether they are millennials, whether they're teens, whether they're in their 60s or 70s, we have so many different ages that watch. But when you're starting something new, most of us put so much pressure on ourselves that we have to get it right out the gate. We have to have that perfect pitch, that perfect log line, whatever it is.
You're constant. I think we've redone it 100 times at least.
I think also one of the biggest strengths that we had was our naivete. We didn't know what we were getting into. So, I think that there's always this pressure to be perfect and to have all the answers when you're starting out. And I think sometimes the best thing is just, we asked everyone we knew questions about what they did. And we didn't know what the right answer was. So it almost was freeing to kind of explore all of these different ideas. And I think that's actually gotten harder as the business has grown.
Yes.
So I think the best thing when we were starting out was that we had no clue what we were going to do.
We didn't overthink anything.
Yeah.
I mean, people are always like, how'd you come up with the name? Like the 2 words. We're like, we wrote it out. It looked better that way.
Yeah.
That was it. Like that was the big meeting.
Yeah. I love it.
And, if we were going to recreate the Skimm today, I mean, we would sit down, we would have probably like 14 brainstorms. We would probably bring in a consultant. We would go to our board. We would overproduce it. We would overdo it and it wouldn't be as good.
Yeah, no, I can relate to that so much. Whenever I find myself or even our team, when we start going down this track, we're like, wait a minute, why is this taking so long?
Yeah.
Why is this becoming so complicated when the whole reason this even exists is because I didn't give a I was just like, go, let's just do this. Another question I want for you guys that I have for you guys, 4,000. How did you spend that? What was the spend on in the beginning?
That's a great question. The very first thing we spent on it was food for our refrigerator. So we have this picture we took. We were roommates in downtown Manhattan. And it's so funny to look at it now and think about it. I don't know what we were preparing for, like a nuclear disaster. Like I don't know.
That was like our focus.
Yeah. We the night before we launched our business, we stayed up late making pasta salad.
No way.
Yeah. Yep. And cutting vegetables because we're like, we won't have the money to order out. So like or go out. So like the pasta salad was very plentiful and it would last a week. And then we ordered all this food and like it was so funny. Our refrigerator has never been as full since that day. Yeah. We took a picture and I don't think I've ever had an as full refrigerator since. And so we definitely spent money there. But we spent, we went into a tremendous amount of credit card debt to do this. And that was something that we decided to do together. It's not something that like, you can tell someone else, go ahead and do it. That's the way. Like we're by no means experts around that. But I think for us, like we agreed to do that. Yeah. So first of all, the things we had to pay for were to actually pay to send the email. You have to use an email service provider. It's shockingly expensive.
Yep.
So we were paying for that. We were paying for transportation, like to go to meetings. I remember we had a really kind advisor who like paid for our first trip to go to the West Coast because we couldn't afford it. And as soon as we ever got money, it was the first check we wrote was to like pay her back. You have to pay for like our initial legal fees and setup.
Yep.
That 4,000 didn't go very far. And so we immediately were using credit card debt.
Yeah. And it was also, we were paying for rent for the apartment. And that was really the only expense.
Kind of forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was the big one. Yeah. But I think there was we didn't have a safety net and we didn't have anything. We didn't want to take anything out of the company, but we also were optimizing for growth.
Yeah.
So that was a really hard position to be in. And knowing that you have the right strategy for the type of business that we were building, like don't just bring in revenue off the bat because you need to grow the brand first. You need to grow to the audience first. And I think that was 100% the right strategy. At the same time, it was so hard because we didn't have time to get other jobs because we were writing at night and we were trying to get the business off the ground during the day. And then we were, trying to stay true to the brand and not kind of just take the first sponsorship offers that would come. And because of that, like we just didn't have another option except for racking up credit card bills that I didn't really look at for a very long time.
Well, that was 5.5 years ago.
Yeah.
So it turned out really well. I want to move on to basically what we were talking about before. I've heard this. I have a program called B School. It's online business school for modern entrepreneurs. Not necessarily folks that want to go the venture capital route, but folks that just have an idea that, they want to get it up and out in the world. And for years, it's going to be my 9th year running this. I've been drilling into people's heads and they hate me for it. Email. I've heard email's dead. It's all about social. What about Instagram? I'm like, trust me, don't say no. Email is amazing. When you guys have heard email is dead, obviously,
I wish we knew you then.
I know. I would have been your champion.
I know. I mean, it's so funny. Like when we think about this now, like for so long, our initial meetings for years, even last week we had a meeting like this where the things that people are said to us, it's like laughable. Why did you focus on a small market like women? That was literally said to us last week.
That would have taken at this point.
I mean, we're kind of numb to it, which is also sad.
Yeah. Well, but I think it's also just a mark now of being like, thank you for telling me up front that you don't understand my vision or my business but it took us
a long time to develop that. The second thing was email's dead. like, don't do email. And we're like, do you check your email? And people would email that to us to say, dear Carly and Danielle, thank you for your time and coming in. We think you both are really smart and great, but we believe email is dead. And they emailed it to us. And we were just like, is no one else seeing the irony here? And we, you know, I'm glad whatever was in us that like allowed us to kind of just zone that part out. Because honestly, if that happened today, like I'd be like, maybe we're really, you know, we should be listening. Yeah. But for whatever reason, we like had it in us to ignore it. And we just really believe that, and we still believe email is a brilliant marketing tool.
It is.
But you can't just send 25 emails a day. And I think that's a big mistake a lot of companies make is they're like, they've got 100 newsletters and they just spam you all day. We send one email to everyone at Monday through Friday at 6 a.m. And that's it. And you know, that's the beginning of like our suite of products. And I think we're very respectful. You know, we say on our website, we respect your inbox and we also respect brunch. So we don't bother you on the weekends. But I think, you know, we find it funny that people still say that.
Yeah. I think it's also kind of been the story to our company, which is we've never been the hot thing from a venture perspective at the right time. So when we started, email was dead. And then after email became cool again, content was dead. And then it was...
Then it was all video.
Yeah, then it's all video, and then it was programmatic, and then it was native, and then it wasn't. So I think just, you know, starting with something that everyone considered to be dead was such a blessing because we learned that we just had to believe our own kind of internal compass for what we think the company should be.
Yeah. I mean, I try and tell people and I give them the example. I'm like, look, do you guys realize, I mean, God bless Facebook, love them, yay Facebook, but I feel like they pulled off one of the biggest bait and switches in history. I mean, getting all of everybody, all of us, right, build up these huge pages, these huge fan pages, and then, we can't reach your people. Yeah. They can't see your stuff unless you pony up. And I get it. I understand as a businesswoman, but that's my whole point when I try and dissuade people from focusing on social.
We've never ever built, and we never want to build our company on someone else's algorithm.
Exactly.
It's not about Facebook.
This
it's about
is business church, and there are people gonna be watching this on a Tuesday or a Friday or whenever you're watching this. But this gets an amen from me. Ooh, it makes me so excited. But it's the truth. I think
it was something that we always just kind of thought was common sense, and then over the past few years, we heard more and more people being like, "Well, I'm moving all of my content to Facebook, or I'm moving all of my content to Snapchat or wherever."
Yep.
And then for us, we always looked at it and we're like, well, that's interesting. It's not, we want to have this direct connection with our audience. You know, unless something huge happens in society and Gmail and everyone else goes down, like we do own that direct connection. They know where to find us. They know we have a recurring habitual routine with where to reach us.
I was telling you guys off camera, you're part of my routine. I love it. I laugh. It's like so much fun. Even on my little ride over to the studio today, I was like, and I get to meet them today. We're going to talk. But it is.
Thank you very much.
And I want to move on to why I have so much fun with it. And this is another thing that we share in common. One of the reasons why it was so taken was the copy, the actual tone and the humor and the connection piece. Because for me, I'm part of your audience, even though I'm not a millennial per se. I'm someone who is very busy, focusing on a lot of different things and not necessarily able all the time to read every single newspaper that I want to read or dive deep into every single subject. And it was so refreshing to open my inbox and have like a hip hop lyric as the subject line. And I'm like, I'm cracking that open. Like there's no way I am not clicking on that. So much fun. And so many of the winks that are opening up to really important things. How difficult has it been? Because I'm assuming that tone and that voice, and please correct me if I'm wrong, comes from a combination of you guys and your perspective on the world.
Yeah, well, I think first of all, our names are nowhere on the site.
Yes.
We created a character together. And that character has a personality. That character, when we created that character, we each had a few friends in mind that we were like, this is how I would talk to so-and-so. So every day, whether there were 100 people reading us, 1 million people reading us, or the millions and millions of people that read us every day now, we still just focus on those same people. How would we talk to them? And, we're very lucky now. We have an amazing support team and we have a wonderful team now. But, for us, I think what you're referencing is that there is definitely there's a casual vibe to our writing and there's a conversational feel to it. And we write the way people speak. And I remember like the first few years when we started, we would get all these emails of people being like, ladies, I am a copy editor. You don't know grammar. I will help you.
Yeah.
And we were like, we do know grammar, but sometimes we're literally changing sentence structure because it's how we speak. And that doesn't show a lack of intelligence. It makes it easier to digest the world around you.
It's intentional.
It
and
is.
it's artistic. And it's a choice.
Thank you.
And it was also, it just came from the reality of like, we're smart people. We worked in news. That was our career. And we would have to read. I remember sitting there, and finance is not like my favorite area to read about. And I was reading about something about the Greek debt crisis, back in the day when we started, and I had to read the same the same newspaper 4 times to understand it. And I was like, I'm spending so much time on this. I'm really putting in the effort, and I'm going to have to look up terms.
Yep.
And that just didn't make sense. Like, there had to be something out there that made it just a little bit easier, that actually took the time to explain the background, to give context. And once you do that, then you actually hook someone, and then they feel more confident reading about the same subject or reading about other things that typically have been outside of their area of interest.
And that confidence, I think, is really important because it spills over and it helps us then connect with one another and not stay silent about issues that could open up to really meaningful discussions or interesting changes in our perspective and our ability
100%.
to see things in a new way. And so I particularly love it. So as a businesswoman, I'm curious, has it been challenging to find writers to embody that same tone as you've gotten bigger?
So when we think about our fundraising history, each stage has kind of been a different test of the company. The very first raise that we did was all about, could we scale the voice? So we hired 5 people, and 2 of them were editorial in the beginning. And the real test for us was, could we scale this? Could we move into a position where we were editing and still being very involved, but the real test to the company was going to be, can you scale that voice? And before we did that, we talked to a lot of people who had worked for years in training voices and building other brands. And the biggest mistake that they said they made was doing things like going local, verticalizing, of trying to do too much too soon. So I think for us, it was, let's make this the very first kind of data point. Let's write down everything we know about this person. Let's write down the whole character of the brand when it is fresh, when it's, the beginning of the company. We actually had a 19-year-old intern who came to us, and he said, I want to work in journalism, but I can't get an internship in journalism because I don't have any journalism experience. And we're like, yeah, we've been there. So we'll help you out. You can be our intern, and we will help you get, an internship at a more established company, because at the time it was the 2 of us on our couch. And he would take notes about every decision that we made.
We should say our couch was like half the size of this. We'd be in our pajamas. He would come over. He would sit next to us and watch us. Like, it's really funny to think about now.
It's amazing.
Honestly, we were too tired to even think it was weird. We were just like, sure, you sit here. And he literally created like a study guide to us of, when you're with a friend, you don't realize you have shorthand. You don't realize you have inside jokes. You don't realize that you both rely on the same, joke, every now and then, or one of you hates this word, the other hates that word. And he literally created a psychological study around what the voice was. And we used that as like a boot camp, if you will, of how to hire. So, when I look at our team today, I think it's less than 10% are editorial.
Wow.
I think that I'm not. No, that's not
You're
true.
not good.
That's not
It's
no.
more.
No, that was not
Math
true.
is
That's
not
okay.
my strong
No,
suit.
but it's a
But
smaller
it's
portion
a
than you would
small
think.
portion.
The
It's not what you
ratio
think.
to product and analytics and engineering is much smaller. And I think that's because, one, given our background and the reason why we left to start a company, we really believe that there is an opportunity for editorial and business to work together.
Yes.
So we would rather have a smaller team that can do a lot and help out with marketing and help out with product than just siloing them. And I think that's given us a lot of room to be able to have a small team and allow them to scale. I think the other part too has been that we don't just think about the brand and the voice as specific to editorial. So we go through the brand deck every quarter, and some of like our favorite moments are when our engineers would be like, no, Skimm Girl wouldn't use that, because they need to know what they're building. They need to think about the audience when they're building their product strategy.
I love that. I love that an engineer's like, no, not so much. We need to change that word or whatever that is. That's awesome. I could talk to you guys about this for hours, but I want to be respectful of time. So when you have such a great product like you do, there's naturally going to be word of mouth. But you guys also have been really intelligent about using community as a tool to then further support and expand upon that growth. So I read that they're responsible in terms of the Skimbassador community for about 20% of annual growth.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. Like, what have you learned in terms of do's or don'ts from a community standpoint? Any highlights?
Well, I think, we've had a lot of companies and people look at what we've done and are like, oh, that seems smart. I'm going to do that too. And you can't create loyalty overnight, and you can't just create, there's plenty of companies that have ambassador programs or brand rep programs. No one has a Skimbassador program. And I think, that has taken years to build. We've thrown a lot of stuff against the wall to see what sticks and, what definitely does not. I mean, what doesn't stick? I remember for year one, we were like, we don't need a lot of Skimbassadors. We need 40. We were like, we'll have 40 at these college campuses and we'll talk to them all the time. And then people were away on fall break and we were like, this is a terrible idea. And so that was a bad idea. Yeah. Then we were like, let's tier Skimbassadors into these 4 different Facebook groups. And we called them super Skimbassadors. And then we had super regular.
I forgot about that.
I mean, honestly, it sounds like tampons. It was a terrible idea. And we
Light Skimbassadors.
Yeah,
exactly.
It was a terrible idea.
Regular plus.
So we got rid of that. And then we were like, people have different motivation of why they want to become a Skimbassador. What they have in common is that they believe in our mission.
Yes.
And they want to, connect with one another or with us. And so what's evolved is this amazing community where honestly, it's been a testing ground for us to see, what happens when you put thousands of women in an online forum together. And what happens—
It gets hairy sometimes.
What happens when you do that in an especially divisive political year?
That gets real hairy.
What happens when we hire from that pool, which we've done quite a lot of? Yeah. What happens when we provide mentorship? What happens when we give them the first look at a new product? So in many ways, they've become, a PR team for us. They've become a focus group. They've become the most honest feedback channel. They help better us. I think we're in the group. Our team is in the group. They see that we're not perfect, that we make mistakes, that we own up to when we make mistakes. And so I think it's been one of the more enlightening things of our lives. But
I think
also
it's been the biggest learning experience for the company because as much as there isn't a roadmap for building a media company today, there really is not a roadmap for building a community and scaling it in this political environment. So I think we are learning from it. And I think that's been amazing to see. And I think one of the biggest things that we've learned is that you need to try things and you need to figure it out and you need to always kind of be innovating because the group, how it looked a year ago, doesn't look the same today. And there's different voices and it's something that's evolving. And so I think that was a big learning lesson for us was, the things that worked 3 years ago don't work because the community looks different.
What's great is that it forces all of us to stay on our growth edge.
Yeah.
Which I think is really
100%.
fun.
And you cannot get lazy with it.
You cannot get lazy with it. You can't get lazy with business. You can't get lazy with the community. I love it. So let's talk a little bit about focus, especially how to stay focused when things start going, right? And more opportunities start coming your way. And then it almost becomes a little bit of an embarrassment of riches where there's wow, there's a lot to choose from. A lot of these things sound good on paper. I'm a woman who runs, and I talk about this all the time on my show, I run everything by intuition. Even if something looks so damn good on paper, the people who are like, wow, I should want to work. And it's I do not. How do you guys have criteria or what are some of the—
We're very similar to you, but have tried over the last few years, for better or worse, to not just rely on our intuition. And sometimes I really regret that I've changed in that way, that I think we've become really pragmatic and are constantly writing out our goals. How does this achieve our goals? I think I hate, we were talking before we started, we both hate the word balance.
Yeah.
But there is a fine balance,
Absolutely.
I think, with intuition and
pragmatism.
I think the biggest mistakes that we've made from all, either moving too fast or too slowly or hiring someone or seeing a product, blow up in our face, I think it always in our mind goes back to intuition. I think we've had feelings and it's the ones that we ignore where we're like, oh, we knew that.
Yeah.
But then I think that, we've had to learn that a lot of the data can actually help strengthen something that's there. And I think that's where we've had to evolve our thinking, especially from the product philosophy side.
That's great. Okay, one other thing I love, #fail so hard. So I was okay, love the Jay-Z and Kanye reference because that was like, it was a couple years back, but when that song was particularly hot, I could not help but turn that up all the time.
Danielle.
Yeah.
Really
That's it. Okay, I can see that is your brain. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
it was so good. So it's so important to fail. And again, it's another one of those things. We have to balance that perfectionism.
It's
like we
really
all want to
hard.
get it right all the time.
Yeah.
And when you're leading people and you're in the public eye in some way, it's like, don't want to fall on my face.
Mistake, and it's embarrassing. And it's something where like I think we tell our team all the time, we're like, embrace the failure. And I'm like, but I hope I'm not the one who's failing.
Right.
Yeah.
But so it's
like
hard.
I really want to use someone else as an example and be really proud of their failure.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm really rooting you on, but like, don't let me fail. And like,
so for our audience though, because I went into something that I might have not explained so well, can you tell us what hashtag fail so hard means in your company?
Yeah. So every week we do a team meeting where we spotlight. So the way this started is we would spotlight something interesting that someone was working on. It was great. Everyone claps. And it's just like, here's one exciting thing and then another exciting thing. And then we realized like, it's okay to talk about like what didn't go well. And that's actually, we read a lot about Amazon and their culture and, they talk a lot about like failure. And I think it's a really big inspiration to learn about how Jeff has instilled like that sentiment in his team. And so one of the things that we created was a hard hat that says fail so hard on it. And every week someone has to say what they tried and failed at. And that's as important as spotlighting something that's exciting.
And I think the thing is like, it's never easy.
Yeah.
Like I wish that at this point it was like everyone was competing for the biggest failure and we're not there yet. No. And I think it's really hard if you are at an earlier stage company, you tend to have a personality that wants to get it right all the time. So I think it's something that in our company culture is definitely a work in progress.
I think also like if you fail, like you can't just be like, okay, I tried this and I failed, but it's like, what did I learn from this?
Yeah.
Did I not listen to my instincts? Like, did I not communicate well?
What was
what
the
happened?
lesson? So we have this in our company. So I have a virtual company. So we do it on the phone. We have one phone call a week.
You're very fascinating.
We'll have a great time. But so on our team call on Thursdays, I have 3 questions and we each get to choose. And one of them is, what did you try really hard at and make a mistake? Or what did you fail at? Yeah. And then what did you learn from it? So for me in our company and me as a human, the growth mindset to constantly look for where am I learning? How am I getting better? And to have our whole team feel really comfortable with that, it's been transformative. Yeah. And it gets us connecting on a whole different level and people feel safe.
Yeah.
And I know for me, when I feel safe, I become my most creative and my most powerful. And I feel like that's the same in a company culture as well. People feel safe, man. They'll go to the wall for you. Okay, we're almost got a couple more minutes. Again, we could talk for hours and hours. So I want to hit on something that I thought was so brave and I really appreciated. You guys make it easier to be smarter. And everything you did last year during the election, your No Excuses campaign. So you helped register over 100,000 people to vote. Come on, making that happen. That is enormous. Yeah. And I also loved when I was getting the email in the morning, I love that you covered both the Republicans and the Democrats, and we talked to everybody. We heard from everyone. I was wondering, I loved the story about the day after the inauguration. Do you mind sharing about that? Because I thought it was brilliant.
I think it's very reflective or emblematic of what we're going through as a country right now, which is, so we wrote the day after the inauguration. It was our top story, wrote about what happened at inauguration, like you would expect us to. And that day we got emails, like we always do from our readers, and over literally people responding to the exact same line of text. Someone said, like a bunch said, no wonder, like, Fox News invested in you, which by the way, they didn't. 21st Century Fox is an investor, but no wonder Fox invested in you. You're just another conservative arm. Then the exact same line of text, someone would write in and say, get over it. Hillary lost. Like, you're just another liberal millennial. And we were like dumbfounded and we were like, wow, like it doesn't matter. We could say the sky is blue. People are going to interpret it like, why are you leaning left? Like, what does the blue mean? And like,
I mean, there was also an interesting point. I think we're so proud of the voter registration efforts that we did. And I think as a company, that is our biggest achievement. I think from everyone that works there, we're really proud of the work that we did. And hopefully we can do much more in the midterms and for 2020, but we didn't endorse anyone. And I think that was even a big point of contention on both sides, that, we felt that it was not at that point in our business the right the right tack for us to take. And our focus was making sure that people felt informed,
Yes.
making sure that people felt that they were prepared to vote and actually getting them out there to vote, and respecting this audience enough to let them make up their own mind.
I loved that. And the reason I wanted to bring this up is because I think it's so important. A lot of folks that listen to and watch this show are also content creators. You know, they may have their own YouTube channel. They may have their own blog. They may do their own podcast. And I think especially for creatives, if you're sensitive, right, you can put something out there and you just get slammed for it. You get trashed.
Yeah.
But I wanted to tell this story because the same line of copy could be interpreted completely
You know you're
different
doing something
ways.
right when both sides are mad at you.
Yes.
Because they think that you're leaning the other way. And
Yes.
I think that's what we've had to, we take away from it, which
Yes.
is like, it's reflective of what's happening in the country, that people are just really angry at each other and really hurt by one another. But I think people are looking, they're looking to uncover something with everyone. And I think we've worked really hard to stay in the middle. And I think to show both sides.
Absolutely. And also to be a source of information so that people can then go ahead, search out more information if they want to, be informed, and make choices within themselves. So let's wrap up talking about what you're excited about now. I know there's so many things on the horizon. Yeah. Anything that you want to talk about in terms of yourselves, your company, anything about what's happening now or what's coming up next?
Wow, we're very excited. We just launched Skimm Notes, which you can find in our app in the App Store. And it's our first real foray into audio, which is something we're so excited. Our audience has been asking us for 4 years. And being able to bring the voice to another platform is really exciting for us. So that's been a huge work in progress.
Yeah. And really just we're focusing and really excited about continuing to build out our subscription offerings, which, you know, I think for us, you know, goes back to we're a membership company. So first way to become a member is to go to theskimm.com/Marie.
Yay! I love that. I have my own page, you guys. Yes,
Yeah.
please. theskimm.com/Marie. We'll make sure it's on the bottom. We'll put it on the blog. It's
But
everywhere.
then we'll introduce you to all of our subscription offerings, which you can also get in the App Store at The Skimm.
Well, you guys are fantastic. Thank you for making it
This is
so much fun.
You have a fun studio.
Oh, yeah.
We like it here.
It's a party here. You guys can come back in. We'll talk more. We can dive deeper into business stuff too.
Yeah,
but
this is
thank you. Keep rocking. And
you.
we'll have another session soon.
Thank you so
very
much.
Now, we would all love to hear from you. So we talked about so many good things today. I'm curious, what's the one standout for you? What's that one insight that you're going to be able to turn into action in your business or your life today? Leave a comment below and let us know. Now, as always, the best conversations happen over at the magical land of marieforleo.com. So head on over there and leave a comment now. Once you're there, be sure to subscribe to our email list and become an MF Insider. You'll get instant access to an audio I created called How to Get Anything You Want. Plus, you'll get some exclusive content, special giveaways, and some personal updates from me that I just don't share anywhere else. Stay on your game and keep going for your dreams because the world needs that very special gift that only you have. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time on Marie TV. Ready to find your voice and sell with heart? We'll show you how. Get started now with our free writing class at thecopycure.com. Side effects include enlarged profits.
We've never ever built, and we never want to build our company on someone else's algorithm.
Exactly.
It's not about Facebook.
This
it's about
is Business Church on and people are gonna be watching this on a Tuesday or a Friday or whenever you're watching this. But this gets an amen from me.